Welcome to The One Inside. My name is Tammy Salenberger. I am your host, and I am super excited today to talk to Ronda. Is it Bonfanti?
Bonfanti. Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. So Rhonda, I love this. Rhonda is an IFS client, and you reached out to me. I'm terrible at reading these bios because then I just get really distracted. But you reached out to me months ago and sent me your beautiful memoir, and we've been going back and forth. So I'm glad that you're finally on the show. You have been on this mental health journey for most of your life. And you wrote a memoir for your children, which I absolutely love the title of it. It's called Talk to the Trees, from CPTSD, which is chronic PTSD, to loving me. You are incredibly grateful for discovering IFS. You've done lots of different self-help things too, which I definitely want to talk about this. You said that you're just another broken human. And I was like, ooh, I wonder if you still feel like that. I wonder if you still feel like a broken human. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second. Being on your journey to fulfillment. So another broken human being on your journey to fulfillment. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. Why don't we start where we always start, which is where you are in the world and what you see when you look out your nearest window.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm in Alpharetta, Georgia, which is about 30 minutes north of Atlanta. And if I look out my window, I see a very heavily wooded backyard, and I can see nothing but the different layers. And right now we have all the colored leaves falling to the ground, and my backyard is my sanctuary.
Hmm. And was it something about being like in those trees or around those trees that helped you title your book?
It's been a lifelong thing.
With you and trees,
Yes, being in nature
being in
and around
nature.
trees.
Okay, and
Yes,
then do you actually talk to trees?
I do.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I believe that they're a form of spiritual connection for me and with some of my ancestral connections as well. My mom, my sisters. Yeah.
I love that. I
Hmm.
I remember when I was like new to the IFS world and I was on a retreat with one of my friends and she was like, I'm gonna hug this tree. What I remember is she was like, I'm gonna hug this tree, but I'm gonna ask its permission first. And I remember looking at her like, you're nuts. But now I do it. I do it all the time, and, like, even as I'm walking my dog and I will kind of go up this feels so vulnerable to say, but I literally will, like I'll notice a tree and I'll kind of feel it out, like, "Okay, is that the one?" And then I'll kind of ask just inside, like, "Is it okay if I touch you? Do I get permission to touch you?" And then it's usually yes, and then I'll hug the tree and I'll just kind of like, sometimes I can tell that it wants, like, both of my hands or just one hand or even, like, my face against it. Like, I can kinda just feel this, and a part of this, 10, 20 years ago, part of me is like, "You're crazy." But and then I stay in this position, and I always get a message. I hear something.
Well, now you've given me food for thought. Should I be maybe asking permission for which tree I talk to? I don't know.
I don't know, it's weird, I'm making it up, I have no idea. Do you get a message back?
um, I do get confirmation or either peace. Sometimes it depends on how overwhelming my issues are on the day when I'm out there
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
find calm.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel like sometimes it's just being held it feels like I'm holding it, but I'm being again, this part of me is like, "Oh my gosh, this is so woo-woo." But it feels like I'm being held by something that has these deep roots, and it's like, yeah, I don't know, as we get older, we don't have, like, moms and I don't know, I mean, I have my mom and dad, but I don't see them that often, and so it's like someone to give me that hug.
I feel unconditional love. I feel safety, and I feel like I'm on my path when I'm out in nature.
I love it. I love it. And so tell me about feeling like or identifying as a broken human being on the journey to fulfillment and now how would you define yourself now?
I have always felt like, I'm using air quotes, there was something wrong with me, that I was so broken that I would never put myself back together and feel normal. So, to the outside world and everybody around me, I've had a beautiful life. Nobody would know that my suffering ran so deep except for a few close friends or family members. Um, and I feel like I've been swimming upstream my entire life. like I've been so committed, and I would find this therapist or this modality, and I'd do it for a number of years or months. Then you take a break and you got to live. You can't be in therapy 24/7 for 25 years. And then I'd have another, I need help, and go back again. And I was thinking about it, like trying to prepare to talk to you today. For example, like one of the early modalities that resonated with me was like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And it made sense at the time that I had these thoughts in my head that were very negative towards myself. And the therapist would ask me to prove them. And I would leave the office thinking, okay, she's right. I'm really not what I'm thinking. And I'd go out and live, but it never stuck. And now I realize, because doing CBT would never have worked on my nervous system, because we should have identified which part was expressing that thought for the day. But now I can go back and relate to it, because if I have a thought, I know which part is expressing that thought.
I love that, and that's such a nuanced idea. So let's just unpack that for a second. So I was trained in CBT also back in the day, and so the idea is that in CBD, that's not the same thing. In cognitive behavioral therapy, that you would have a thought, you identify the thought, and then you would identify sort of did you ever do the CBT triangle? Right, like thought, feeling, behavior. I remember that,
Yes,
like, back in the day. And then you can kind of identify the thought, the feeling, the behavior, and then to challenge the thought or try to, find evidence for the thought. Um,
right.
and so in some ways, it would work for a little. Did you find that, like, it would work for a little bit, but then
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, and
And
then
I'd be like, yay, I'm not broken and I got this and I'm normal again.
yeah.
And for a number of weeks, maybe, if that.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Till the next human being or relationship challenged me.
yeah, yeah, and then that thought will be right there again.
Or even a new one. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so then now thinking of it, it's like you said it so beautifully, so I can now think of it as a part of me who has that thought or the part of me that has that belief or that burden, and then have a different relationship with that thought, which I'm putting in quotes, because it's a thought of a part.
Right.
Okay. All right, good. Did you find that like noticing your thoughts was one of your cues to your parts? Like was that one of
Yes.
your Okay, tell me about that.
I think because of my trauma history, I could never go inside and even see images or see experiences, but I always had these strong feelings, which led to the thoughts.
Okay.
So my IFS journey is very feeling and thought focused.
So then
Mhm.
you did cognitive behavioral therapy and then not that you have to give us sort of the timeline, but then kind of what other things did you try and yeah, tell me what other things you tried.
Well, I think in general, way back when I started, it was just kind of going to the therapist, and I call it emotionally vomiting on her and crying hysterically. And then she's like, "Oh, you're okay. And you came from a dysfunctional family, and your dad was an alcoholic, and now he's dead, and you'll never be able to say goodbye." And so she got me,
Yeah.
and I felt better. I'd leave the
Yeah.
office feeling better. Right.
Yeah.
And you just do that over and over, but I wasn't getting any skills and tools to help myself do it outside the therapy office.
Yeah, and so then what happened? What happened? How did you go from that to finding IFS and what's happened since
Just
then?
continuing to be committed to my healing and growth journey. And I have read 250 self help books, and I'm always going to read self help books. And it just leads to the next thought and the next, yeah, that might work for me, or I believe that. And eventually, in early 2023, I discovered IFS, thankful for Gabby Bernstein had it in her Happy Days book, because, yeah, I want to be happy. So I'm going to read her book, right?
Oh, so that's how you found it. I love
Yeah.
that. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love that so much. Okay, that's great.
And then, of course, it's like, well, she had a trauma history and she loves IFS. I have a trauma history. I love, or I want to know IFS. If I can feel as good as her, then off I go. And you're the first podcast, IFS podcast. Tammy,
Aw,
binge listen to yours. Almost every one of your people that you speak to. Oh, they wrote a book. I'm going to go buy that book. You wrote a book. I'm going to go buy her book.
I love it. I love that.
And then, of
It
course, found my IFS therapist to work with.
Yes, good, good. And then, so I'm wondering if we should have you read your banana split chapter because that gives us also lots of information and tells the really, I think, adorable story of your relationship with Frank Anderson.
Oh my gosh, yes. And if I hadn't now, let's just say this. IFS definitely could have put the pieces of me back together, but if I had not found Frank Anderson, say, trauma can be healed. That was life-changing. It gave me the hope that I wasn't always gonna be another broken human being, that I could find lasting peace and self-love. So, that was a combination of both of those. Okay, are you gonna warn everybody about my sexy sailor part?
Why don't you go ahead and warn people?
Okay, I apologize, Mom, she's up in heaven. She would wash my mouth out with soap if she were here, but anyway, let me take a sip of water. Chapter 6, Banana Splits. My first PTSD breakdown has been reduced to bits and pieces, fragments of distant thoughts, shards of internal dialogue gone rogue, and some seared somatic memories. It occurred in my late 20s. My best recollection is at 27. It was such a painful tsunami, I've tried not to think about it much over the years. A dark night of the soul, some call it. It started with journaling more than usual at night, into the wee hours. I couldn't stop them from wanting to speak. They needed my attention, they needed my love. But I was ill equipped at the time to understand what was happening. My exiles wanted to tell their stories, and they definitely wanted out of the hell they were living in. Insomnia ensued, and journaling continued. God, I wish I had a parts map back then. We would have had so much fun together. Times were what they were, and Mom was who she was. I'm sure she was freaking out because her daughter was not herself. Mom's best friend from childhood was an out-of-state psychologist, Dr. Ruth, but not the sex lady. Mom asked Dr. Ruth for advice on how to help me in the state I was in. Mom asked Dr. Ruth to have a chat with me, and I agreed since I trusted her. She was like a second mother to me. Dr. Ruth told me a story. I can only remember snippets of it now. She was talking about banana splits and how there are as many combinations as there are people. She went on and on about how some people are born with a vanilla scoop, a chocolate scoop, and a strawberry scoop. Some people are born with 2 scoops of chocolate and a rocky road. I thought she would never stop talking about ice cream because by then I was ready for a Dairy Queen blizzard. In my exhausted state, I finally said, Mama Ruth, what are you trying to tell me? Mama Ruth said, Honey, we're all a little bananas. Or did she say, we're all a little nuts? I can't remember now. What I do remember is her telling me to trust her and that she told Mom to take me to talk to some doctors. I won't bore you with the traumatic details of our medical system back then and how I was treated, but I will share my do-over. This is how my corrective experience went. Because Dr. Ruth was in the industry, she made a call and got me in to see Dr. Frank D. Anderson. I was still scared to death, but as soon as I met him, my system softened a bit. This is how our first session went. Hi, Rhonda. My name is Dr. Anderson, and I'm a psychologist. You can call me Dr. Frank. I understand your mom brought you here today because you haven't been feeling well lately. I also had a chat with Dr. Ruth, who filled me in a little about your family. Would you like to tell me what's going on? I'm not sleeping well. My journaling is creeping into the night for hours, and I can't seem to stop it. I'm exhausted. Dr. Frank says that he can help me. He doesn't start with all that medical language bullshit they trained him up with in his Ivy League education. Dr. Frank doesn't speak of the amygdala and prefrontal cortex or neural pathways. If he had, my I'm stupid and ADD parts would have surely taken over and shut the system down. I love my disassociation part so much. Instead, Dr. Frank asks in his calm, inviting tone, Rhonda, have you lived through any overwhelming life experiences? Oh, hell fucking yeah, we exclaimed. My dad is a drunk. My parents divorced when I was 7. A motherfucking piece of shit goddamn asshole got a hold of me when I was 11. I have not told anyone yet. My car flipped over when I was 16. I moved 4,000 miles away from my family and friends after graduating from college. I lived through a scary as fuck earthquake in California on October 17th, 1989. I can't quite get my bulimia under control, but please don't tell my mom. And now I'm having a nervous breakdown. Think that's enough for you to work with, Dr. Frank? Abso-fucking-lutely, he said. Dr. Frank doesn't pull out the fucking DSM manual, because he probably has it memorized, and slap another trauma label on my back. He doesn't add another brick to my already enormous backpack I've been strapped to for so long. I'm ready to unpack this shit and travel lighter, for God's sake. For the first time in our lives, we feel the slightest glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, it really is possible to trust a man. Wow, what a new feeling to rest in. Dr. Frank and I talk about his treatment approach using internal family systems therapy. I told him I really didn't want a bunch of pills because I was born into a family of addiction. I told him I didn't want to numb out like my dad does with alcohol or some of my other family members do with drugs, but I wouldn't object to a sleep aid for a short while we unpacked my trauma backpack. I left Dr. Frank's office with a sleep aid prescription in hand and our next appointment scheduled. I got in the car and told Mom the session was amazing and I couldn't wait to work with Dr. Frank. I also told her, boy, that Dr. Frank sure did win the trifecta lottery. He is nice as shit, smart as hell, and fucking gorgeous. Mom and I laughed. We stopped at Dairy Queen on the way home. I slept like a baby that night, one who sleeps through the night.
Amazing, 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 amazing. What is it like for you to read that to us?
Well, I've been sitting with all my parts, and there's some flutter and some nervousness, but we've been preparing for this day for a long time because I have benefited so much from others sharing their story,
Mm.
and it was time for us to share ours and hopefully be some bit of hope for others who maybe are just starting out.
Mm. One of the things I first noticed about your book is, um, how funny you are, and I feel like there was something about when I just I mean, I think within the first paragraph, it's not disarmed, but maybe like, instead of like, "Oh, here's another self-help book," or, "Here's a book about trauma," all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, this is like, she's so funny," and there's something about that that just felt very, like, inviting, and my whole I'm doing it right now, like, my whole shoulder sort of softened, like, with just who you are and how that really shines through in your writing and even in your reading. It's just yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Humor is a medicine in life.
Yeah, yeah, I
It
love
is.
it. I love it. And so the other thing that I want to share about Frank is that you ended up, which I'm so curious about how this was for you, this sort of full circle moment where he is sort of is at the beginning of your trauma healing, and then you took a class on writing a memoir with him. So how was that for your system?
Um, I have always received the next resource just in the perfect time because I've always been open. It's like, keep helping me heal. What do I need next? Curiosity. I didn't know that was part of me, but definitely that kept me going. Once I found Frank, I was going to look at everything he offered. And of course, me just being a layperson, not a mental health professional like yourself, it was something he was offering to us, lay people for healing. So Dr. Lissa Rankin and Frank Anderson had this course at the beginning of the year. It was for 4 months. Every Thursday, I think for 2 hours, we were online. And I'm not a writer, I'm a journaler. If you knew how much I wanted to pull my eyes out to get through high school and college with all the papers you had to write, but I knew that journaling comes from inside whatever needs to come out. So I purposely said, okay, I'm doing this for my children. I need my perfectionist and people pleasing parts to not participate. So every morning I got up, I got my coffee, and I said, okay, I'm going to go to the laptop and I'm going to see what comes out for 2 hours. And at the end of the 6 weeks, when the class is over, that's all I'm going to include in my book because I have a part that would have just, oh, I can think about this part in my life or this or this. And it would have gone on for years and I would have never finished something. So this is the culmination of 6 weeks of just a couple hours every morning with the coffee, letting out. But Tammy, I would roll over and open up and go, "Oh, chapter 5, banana splits," and I would just start writing. So that it just came to me, like something was helping me.
So, what would you say for people that are at the beginning of this journey that are like, I feel like I'm broken. I feel like I'm broken and I just read all the self-help stuff. I read all the self-help, I do all the therapy and helps for a little bit, but I'm still in this cycle. What would you say?
There is a version of you that is so pure and beautiful and full of so many qualities that you may not feel. You were born like that and you can return to that state. You just need some help. And please give IFS a try.
I love it. And let's talk about journaling, because I feel like some people love it and some people are like, I can't do it. So if I'm gonna kind of giving IFS a try. I'm gonna mix these two things. Like, what would giving IFS a try and journaling, like, what would you suggest or advice for people around that? Like giving IFS a try and journaling.
With just 2 or 3 journaling prompts and a couple of questions, you could get started.
Okay.
What overwhelming life experiences have I lived through? You don't have to feel them, just name them. So many of us grew up in a divorced family. So many of it grew up in an alcoholic home, right? Some of us may not have had normal resources with clothing and food. Just start naming some of the unfortunates that have happened in your life. People go through divorce, right? That's an overwhelming life experience. So just start naming what has happened. I personally, I think you read my memoir, that there's 3 resources that to me are so beautifully intertwined. And I'll name them in the order that I found them, that they found me, I should say. The Grief Recovery Method is an evidence-based program to help you process grief. And grief is about so much more than just death. Grief is about any emotional loss that we experienced. You can buy that book and follow the steps and do the writing in that book. That could be step 1 without any help, although I would love you to work with a grief recovery method specialist. Nonviolent communications, I found second before IFS. Once I could start naming some of my pain, I knew that I didn't have the tools to speak up for myself and name what I needed. That book helped me, right? It
Mhm.
helped me start speaking up for my needs. How can I, with empathy and compassion, speak up for my needs? So to me, that is from self, right? That's not from apart, right? So these are all beautifully intertwined. And then once I found IFS, if you read it, it sounds a little strange, firefighters, managers, exiles, right? But if you get down to, especially if you can work with an IFS therapist and they just ask you questions, that completely made sense to my system and everything fell into place. It was like I was like a 10,000 piece puzzle, and I was still on the dining room table with one piece that you could see the sunshine, and one piece you could see the ocean. Maybe you saw some fish down here, but you have all these other pieces, and I'm like, I'm never going to finish this puzzle before I die. And now it is in my heart and in my soul. I have put that 10,000 piece puzzle back together, Tammy. And it's because of you and Dick and Frank and all the people that are doing this work to help us.
Mm. I guess I wanna say that I just appreciate you reaching out to me and you sharing your story and you sharing it with me and with us right now because you're just such a good reminder of what this is all about.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. One of the other things that you did in your book, and I've heard this before, and I want you to talk about it. Writing a letter to shame. So tell me what that means. What does that mean? How do we do it? And what was your experience of it?
Well, it does stem from my experience with the grief recovery method because one of the elements is writing letters to, they recommend all your family of origin members, mom, dad, siblings, everything. And they want you to include anything positive, negative, anything about your relationship with that person to find emotional completion. So I had that in my repertoire already. I had written some letters to all my family members. So it just came to me that shame, I have been so burdened by shame, just s so burdened by shame all my life. And, it stems from 7 years old. My dad left, so I was not good enough for him to leave. Being molested at 11, thinking my only worth as a woman is for my body, right? So just becoming bulimic, just shame, 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 shame. Okay, so it just came to me to write this letter, and I just sat down and I really thought, "What have I thought about in my past that made me feel shameful?" And it just came out. And I read it to my IFS therapist, and I'm just bawling and I'm just discussing and she's just releasing and we're acknowledging it. And Tammy, it's gone. Gone. Now, that doesn't mean that if I get an email or a text, I'll feel a tickle from shame, but it's not the same thing. I'll go, "Oh, baby, that didn't land well. Yeah, that hurt." But we're not gonna go eat a bag of Oreos. We're not gonna drink a bottle of wine, right? We're gonna not numb it out. We're gonna sit with it and go, "Okay, how do we wanna respond to that?"
Hmm. Wow, there's a part of me that's like, "What do you mean you're not gonna eat the cookies and drink the wine?" What? I love that, I love that, and I love that you're saying too that there's still a tickle, right? There's still a tickle because 'cause we're still humans and we're gonna get that tickle. It doesn't have to tickle the younger parts of you that have carried all those burdens of shame. So, I love that. I love that tickle. So 2 things I wanna talk about before we end. One is, creating community. So one of the things that you have a heart for is creating community and even imagining like more IFS peer support. So tell me about that. Tell me about that desire and what you're kind of imagining with that cuz you talked about the healing journey being so lonely.
It is. So, part that's the I would say that's the primary motivation is that I have felt so lonely on my healing journey, and now that I have this new paradigm that I will live the rest of my life through, IFS, I want to be able to speak IFS with people. It would be like I learned Spanish. I'm only going to get better if I'm practicing Spanish with you, Tammy, right? I have no people that I can speak IFS with, right? Outside the therapy room. So I do have a heart for connecting, a heart for supporting and sharing. So my first thought was, well, maybe I could create an IFS peer support group from others. But then I have a part that is really terrified of causing anyone psychological harm. So I want you, Tammy, to ask the IFS Institute if they will create an IFS peer support training and personally invite me to participate in the first cohort.
Ooh, okay, I'm writing that down right now.
Okay. Because if I were trained to know how to run a group like that, that would be something that I would love to do. In the meantime, I also hope that by you sharing my story online, that people will just email me and we can have a 3 o'clock virtual coffee and just chat, and I can help them feel less lonely on their journey. I won't give them advice. I will just say, I hear you. I'm with you. I understand. Yeah.
I love it. And you're not alone in that. I mean, I have a friend that's a podcaster, and he loves IFS, but he's it's the same way you talk about this in your book, I think, is that, I mean, either in one of the emails, I'm like, either in your book or one of the emails, but that idea of, when you learn this language, then it's hard you can't really talk you can try to talk to your family about it, you can try to talk to your friends about it, but it's almost like they might try to get it, and, I mean, I feel this way too, right? Like, my family, like, they try to get it, but, and so there is this loneliness even so, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I have a friend that feels the same way, even though he's a professional and even though he's a podcaster, he feels the same way that of not like, kind of this in between, like, not being able not having that connection with, like, your old group or your old like, kind of not having that anymore because you talk and
Mhm.
think and feel differently, but then not having the new group. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And so I do feel like I have, each of my feet in 2 different worlds, and
Yeah, okay.
I often refer to old Rhonda and new Rhonda,
Ooh.
and let's say something happens. I grin to myself so much and go, "Oh my goodness, old Rhonda would have handled it that way, but new and improved Rhonda, IFS Rhonda, is gonna handle it this way," and it's just
Mm.
remarkable, just
Hmm.
remarkable.
Does it feel
Yeah.
like old Rhonda because old Rhonda had different parts of her running or
Yes,
driving the bus, right? Different parts of her were
yes,
driving the bus, and now you're
yes.
more self-led driving the bus.
Yes, at the end of it, Tammy, all I ever wanted was to be loved,
Mm,
to feel like I belong, to feel like I was okay and normal.
mm.
I wanted you to invite me to a party on Friday night, just simple things in life, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. And does it feel like these sweet parts of you feel that way now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I'm lonely, I know that what I desire will come because I'm
Mm.
putting myself out there to make it happen for myself.
I love it. Okay, so let's end on pickleball.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to be quiet while you ask your famous last
Oh,
question.
do I have to ask that question, then we talk about pickleball? Okay. All right,
Sure.
so let me ask the last question. All right,
Okay.
so Rhonda, if you had to do something different in your life, you got to and you had to do something different in your life, what would you do?
Well, I'm going to give you two answers. For the 2 years I've been binge listening to all your podcasts, I would say, oh, if Tammy was talking to me, I would say, I would love to be a concert pianist with an angelic voice, right? But
Mhm.
now that we're talking life here, I would like to combine my two favorite things, pickleball and IFS. So I plug that into AI for a little help, and I have a little logo and a tagline, parts and paddles, where your inner team learns to rally. So I want some, not only do I want some IFS friends, I want some IFS and pickleball friends, ideally.
I love it. I love it. And you came up with this really cute. I'm looking at it right now. I want to call it a flyer or handout, but I know that's not what it's called now. But it's so we're gonna put that somewhere. So we'll put it on the show notes, but it's also on your website. This really cute um, parts and paddles handout. I know that's not what it's called. Okay, so I love that. And is there anything else you want people to know? I know people can find you at your website. Anything else you wanna say
I'm
before
not in
we
any kind of business revenue generating. I'm just a normal human looking for other normal humans to connect with. Um, Anyone out there listening who is scared, who feels lonely, who is early in their journey of healing and growth, just stay committed. Find the next resource, spend time with yourself. I love journaling. I love journaling. If you can try to journal, it's so beneficial because we don't often have people we can share what's in our mind with and on our hearts, but you can always put it to paper.
I love it. I love it. Rhonda, thank you so much. Thank you for your courage in reaching out to me and doing this, and, I just really appreciate you, and I'm excited to meet you, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Tammy. I'm so excited to meet you. Like, you're my Oprah star.
Yeah,
And I really appreciate the time we've spent together.
thank you so much. And so Rhonda and I are going to end going over to Substack. So if you're done with this podcast, thank you for being here. And then go over to Substack where you can hear our extended interview for the One Inside Substack subscribers. Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you left a rating, a review, a like, comment, share with your family, your friends. That would mean so much to me. My book is available at your favorite independent bookstore or on Amazon. You can visit my website, tammysalinger.com, or you can download a free Get to Know a Should part of you. You can follow me at IFS Tammy on Instagram and at The One Inside on Facebook and on YouTube. Jeff Schrum co-produces The One Inside, and I am forever grateful for Jeff. Also thankful for Jack Rudin for creating the music, and just thank you for listening. 6 seasons, over 1 million downloads. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you in this community. I'll see you next time.